Hi, my name is Tom Bassett, and I'm the founder of Mindswarms. I'm putting this little video together to give you some best practices about how to think about going through video and gleaning insights and drawing conclusions. We do get asked from a number of clients who are using Mindswarms for the first time what to look for, how to go through the data, how to extract the most relevant insights, and then how to really turn those into stories to share internally in an organization. There are basically two things I look for up front. The first are patterns. What sort of patterns am I seeing? What sort of themes are emerging? What are people identifying with? What are the recurring problems? What are the issues that they have with a particular product or a service or a brand or an experience? I generally aim, and this is just me, you may be different, for somewhere between 5 to 10 patterns or themes. I'd like to group things together. I feel like any more than 10 starts to get a little unwieldy in terms of sharing that knowledge out across the organization. And I think importantly, think about those 5 to 10 themes or patterns, running them through my brand filter. Why are those relevant to my particular brand? How are they germane to a positioning related to safety or to reliability or to ease of use? A lot of people are going to say a lot of different things, but how are those insights then related back to my particular brand? So identifying 5 to 10 patterns and themes, running them through a brand filter to figure out which ones are the most germane to you. The second thing I look for, which I think is really interesting about Mindswarms, are what are those original insights? There's always someone, there's always something in every study that I just didn't expect, I didn't anticipate, and I couldn't see coming, and that's why we do these studies. Maybe it's a novel way to use a particular product. Maybe it's a novel perception that they have of my particular brand. Maybe it's some insight they had about a commercial that a company ran and what they said. So while I'm looking for patterns, I'm always also looking for those original insights. What's a unique, unusual way that I could see something through the eyes, through the lens of a consumer? The second thing I do after I've identified patterns and themes is bracket those insights into two main buckets: problems and opportunities. I found that over the course of my career, when I go in to present to anywhere up to a C-level group, presenting problems is almost a really relevant way to share your insights back within an organization. A lot of organizations get very insular. They understand themselves. They think they know their target. They think they know their product. When you come back and you say, hey, here are some real issues and problems, I find senior management tends to get very engaged. The other are, so what are the opportunities? What are the areas, what are the zones of opportunity I could then pursue? Is it a brand extension? Is it a refinement of an existing idea? Is it an entirely new idea? Is there some sort of problem or need that hasn't been met that the research has uncovered that you could share back in terms of the organization? So identify the problems, identify the opportunities, and slot those insights into one of those two brackets. The third thing I do, and it's probably one of the most important and the most difficult, is to identify what I think of as the overarching story. There's too much research that comes back and says, here are the 40 or 50 things that this research is telling us, and there's no focal point for it. And so I think it's really important, if you're going to frame the research back within the organization and even to yourself to some degree, is what's really the story here? I don't tend to think of presenting those findings inside an organization as a research debrief or a sharing of insights. I think about it as storytelling. So really understanding what the story is, what the big story is, first and foremost, is one of the most important parts of the analysis process. What's the story you're finding, and how do you articulate that? I think of articulating the story in one sentence if I can. It really should be a very short form story. We're mispositioned in the market. We need to reposition our brand. Our new product line is misunderstood. There's an opportunity to develop a whole new line of product and a revenue stream if we do X. So really identifying the overarching story first. Once you've gone through all the data, identified the problems, identified the opportunities, the patterns, and the original insights, and putting those into an overarching story. Once you've figured out what the overarching story is, you need to then figure out what the chapters are or the building blocks are to bring that story to life. So what's chapter 1 through chapter 4 or 5 that leads you to the punctuation point of the entire story. What's the big reveal? What are you trying to teach people? What are you trying to tell them? Lastly, I really like to edit a 2 to 3 minute video to bring the insights to life, using the authentic material we've collected from consumers to have them tell the story in their words. It's important for anybody in the organization to see their actual consumer in their environment or in their natural environment out on location if they're recording on mobile, explaining how they see something, how they use something, what the problems or the issues are, opening a package, demonstrating how they organize their fridge, what they have in their closet, whatever it is. It just makes the whole story so much more visceral and real and sticky with the people whom you're trying to share it with. You don't have to do a video, but if nothing else, I'll be honest with you, it's the one time when a lot of people in the room actually won't talk during the research storytelling part of the exercise. There's a certain respect for film. And so if you can edit a 2 to 3 minute piece together, I would avoid long clips in that process. Anything over even 10 seconds is kind of a long time for a cut. So if you have a 15-person study or a 150-person study, you have a lot of material to choose from. Don't use 30-second clips. People will sort of fall asleep. And if you can and you have the time and you have the editing resources, throwing some music underneath is nice, using title cards is nice, and even putting B-roll over top is an added bonus. B-roll, for those of you who don't know, is just footage that you lay over top of what the person's saying to add color and texture to their particular insight. As far as filmmaking is concerned, one trick that we employ is what we call paper edit. In each mindswarm study, you have transcripts that come included with the package. So once you've gone through the video and you've made your notes and you've decided what your story is, what we tend to do is use the transcripts to extract quotes as what we call a paper edit. So you basically outline your story in writing first, make sure the flow works, make sure the story logic flows, and then hand that over to your editing staff or use that as a guideline to edit. You do have to keep in mind, however, that film is film, it's not paper. So what may look great on paper doesn't always play well exactly in the film itself. So you just have to be mindful in the final edit that even though somebody makes a point that you think you want them to make, they have to make it in a very compelling and genuine and authentic kind of way on film for it to really be believable and credible. So to recap, to get the best mileage out of your mindswarm study, to do the analysis, look for patterns, look for original insights, bracket those into problems and opportunities, of course filtered through your particular brand and its point of view in the world. Develop the overarching story for it. What is the story that you're really trying to tell ultimately? And then the building blocks, the chapters that bring that story to life, and you can use those in a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation, or my personal favorite is really to edit a video together to bring that story to life, to allow consumers to tell it in their own words.